It's hard to describe because it's different than, it kind of makes sense, and when people watching it, it feels real, but there's something odd and strange about it. And I think that was the tone I was always interested, was, make something that's very grounded, but then slowly lifts more and more out of realism as the film progresses, but still try to root it into something that is emotionally true.
This is one of those films where it's very cerebral and very esoteric, and so it's hard to really describe the characters.
You start in a world that is basically seems normal, but you can't quite figure out the rules of this world. There's something a little odd about it. As the film progresses, every time you start to think you figure out what the rules you're operating within, something else happens that makes you question, wait, what are the rules?
My feeling about the film is that it's kind of a cautionary tale, but at the same time kind of a reflection of something that's already been done.
I just think of the movie as a mystery. There are details that keep unraveling and uncovering themselves. The trick was to push it as far as you could push it without shutting people down.
Part of the requirement or ask when I cast Javier Bardem and Jennifer Lawrence was that, look, I want to take you guys for 3-4 months and seclude ourselves in a warehouse out in Brooklyn and basically workshop the script and develop it and think about it. And for about 4 months, we were alone at a table and we just sat around and started to develop it more and more. This is exactly right. His character is
a narcissistic artist.
There's nothing wrong with it. He didn't do anything wrong. You didn't do anything wrong here. You're not showing any disrespect to her at all by inviting people over. These people just lost a fucking kid.
Yeah, of course.
Of course I'm going to invite them over there. They have nowhere to go. I mean, it's what the entire film is. What's more important than being in love with your partner and focusing on them, or being a great host. Eventually climaxing in the last 2 weeks of that process, we brought Michelle Pfeiffer in and Ed Harris and Donal and Breon Gleeson. We actually shot the film. The set was taped out. We did every single shot, every single scene, just basically getting a sense of the camera movements and the sort of progression of the characters and their arc before we ever started to shoot.
The prep on this movie was intense. I mean, we had 3 months of rehearsals with our full cast. I mean, that's normally often how long it takes to actually shoot a movie.
I mean, this tight, she turns, and then her reaction is that.
Yeah.
So it goes tight right over her, and then boom, tight here.
All please. Camera rolls. Have a 5, take 2. And action.
I started forming my relationship with the house in a warehouse where there was just chalk drawings of the outline of the house. So my imagination was already starting with how she would walk down the stairs and hold the banister and really feel the home, or how she would feel the intensity at which her close emotions are tied to the house. So then once we got to Montreal and we were on that set, that just happened really effortlessly.
The entire movie was shot on various versions of the house. One was on a location, one was on a stage. The octagonal house was oddly tied into phrenology and was developed by architects and scientists as sort of like a harmonious shape for a house based on the function of the human brain. That was just weird enough for us to kind of hang a whole a set onto it. Like, okay, we're gonna do that. We're gonna develop that. So we have the octagon. We have this sort of labyrinthine structure, and the idea was that there are no dead ends in our house. There are a series of hallways and rooms that you enter into, but no room is really a dead end because we want to always kind of be moving forward.
We actually built multiple sets. We built the first floor of the house outside in a field where we shot all of our daylight shots that you could see out a window. So we had, a real grass field outside that was very surreal, but it was, in a real field.
can, if you're in one end of the house, you can kind of see all the way through, you know. There's kind of an atrium in the middle of it. And so it was very particular, you know, the blocking and everything. And because of the way it was shot, you know, things were very specific in terms of where we were and, you know, where you needed to be for whatever shot it was.
For the bulk of the film, there were 3 kinds of shots. A shot over her shoulder, where she's always referenced in the frame, where we can see the things in front of her and have a geographic relationship between her and whoever she's interacting with in the space. Or a close-up from the neck up, because you're not always conscious of your body when you're walking around, or her point of view. And that was the entirety of the language of the film.
Oh, see what you did, huh? We need to beat up see.
No. I think you look at what.
Yeah, see it. Right.
Say see. I think that's what you have time for. Or you can say see what you did, and as you're saying it, they go. See what you did.
See what you did.
Boom.
I don't know if anyone's going to get just strength. I'm not saying that much resistance, but there's some, and that we don't just roll over.
I think it's all right. Yeah, then you have to get over him.
Yeah.
Hold on, ready, and action! Stop! Look! And then the camera's going to back up, staying on you guys, to the bathroom. And it's going to whip into the door. And then we'll count to like 2 or 3. And then we're going to come back.
Don't get it.
You know, we built a house that was, for all intents and purposes, the only difference between it and a location is that we could screw into the walls. Nothing moved. Having to go through real doorways, having to go up and down real stairs, it lends itself to a reality that I think the film succeeds on.
The entire film is basically either shot over her shoulder or on her face or what she's looking at, which is an incredibly limited amount of shots to take back to the edit room. So if Jan at any moment wasn't working, there wasn't many places to go. So she had to be endlessly specific and endlessly good.
We built all the floors of the house indoors on a stage where we shot all the night shots and where you didn't see out a window. And really the second half of the film was all shot on that stage. For a movie that all takes place in one house, it was quite the construction job. You would see the circle that the camera would go in around the house. So it was very, very planned out.
That's a big shot. Fine, no problem.
So he turns, the shutter exposed the film, which is right there.
Oh, that's cool.
And then it turns 24 frames per second. So when you roll the camera, this is what it does.
Shooting 16mm was a foregone conclusion because it has become part of the aesthetic that Darren's been known for. Part of that is practical, part of that is completely subjective sort of love for the texture that it brings. Today we're sort of riddled with, I would say, the same image over and over again. It's like a digital image, and people have lost the feeling that they had when they were watching a movie because they don't have that texture anymore. They don't have that little patina that stands in between reality and cinema. And then I think Darren's always strived to have it. Smaller camera, longer loads, texture. So it's a combination of practicality and aesthetics.
As the film progresses, it goes more and more into the darkness, into the night, and we were able to sort of shoot that whole journey in one long, challenging swoop.
So he sent me 75 pages and I read it. And part of it was part script, part essay, part novel. It wasn't fully formed, but you could see the idea. I immediately thought, is he okay? And I called him after I read it, are you okay? He's like, why? I go, because this feels like a nightmare.
I think there really was a fever dream aspect to it, because when you write that quickly, you're channeling something. The way it builds and that freneticism and that fact that it's so odd, but yet it coheres, I think that cohering comes from the fact that it all came from one place, even though there's so many different ideas in it.
There would be a master shot that was so long that a lot was happening that would change from take to take.
What are you doing? I'm going in. That's good. Let me see it. Action, guys, action. Let's get this guy. Come on in right here. It was very good emotions. And right here, Steve, if you could say, give us space right when you go there to the crowd. You're sort of going back and forth.
Oh, when I'm fighting with Jerry?
Yeah, just sort of, you can go this way, forward and back, but if you go left and right, you'll never find it. All right, let's go. I wonder if it's just, let's go.
Okay, guys, we're going to rehearse with...
Where are you going? No, you can't leave. He loves you.
Holy shit, that was like a real war zone.
C'est dégueulasse, c'était.
You know what I mean? There's a certain atmosphere of tension, I think, that kind of remains throughout the entire film until the tension just is no longer tension. It's just all hell busting loose, you know.
You start to go that way, then they're coming this way. And then there's a guy going through this way, soldier. So you react. And then right here, we get a contraction. 2, 1, go!
And then we finally get to the fever dream where things ramp up, and we have created these sort of vignettes of humanity within the house. We had talked about everything from like Ebola victims to full-on protests with riot police, to war zones, to ash-covered like Hiroshima bodies and plague victims. Shanties have been built in, and we really staged these things within the house. At some point, the house kind of is a stand-in for the scale of human history in a slice. Not all of it good.
I mean, another big kind of genre that we were playing with in this film was the home invasion picture. I don't know, it's very relatable, I think, and very scary when you start to sort of see your world split apart and taken away from you, and there's nothing you can do.
I also want this piece of door right here. This motherfucker's coming home with me tonight.
What's your role in this?
My role?
Yeah.
What do you think? Pervert.
Ready? And background action!
guys get over your shoulder. What about over here?
No, the shot's the same.
What if the world is like a house and we invade that house and we destroy the house in the name of love, in the name of love for somebody? It asks you to make a journey, emotional journey. I think for me it was a very deep reading on humanity, on world itself.
So I think those themes of like how human emotion works and how we respond to things that we love in positive and negative ways, it's all jammed into these situations and characters. So I don't think it's gratuitous in that way, but I think it's deeply disturbing that that's part of the essence of what the film is.
And then you're here, and then look both sides, but most of it's going to be on camera right side. And then when the Molotov cocktail goes, that's camera left side. And as that happens, when the Molotov cocktail goes off, is a bunch of the police are rushing that way, creating a whole view. And that goes, but after the Molotov cocktail hits, that's when you get your next attack. And on that, I'd like to see where.
And 3, 2, 1, action!
Some people are, religion is all about how you interpret it. She's interpreting it, if you're not with us, you're against us, and you're going to get in our way, so we're going to kill you. I'm the same, I'm going to get in our way.
You start heading that way. Okay?
Okay, when we say Big Bang, what is that? I mean...
Me?
Yeah.
I'm 9 months pregnant!
Good. And back to what?
Resetting.
Set. Sorry.
To me, even though we're shooting things that are eerie and scary and there's a light bulb exploding and my character's scared, to me, the allegory is so much bigger than what we're looking at, that it's so much bigger than a jump scare or something looking frightening. It's what it all means. That's what I saw when I finally saw the movie for the first time.
That was good. We're gonna do. We're not gonna be as rough on this next one. We're gonna bring in a robotic baby. This thing's pretty cool.
The flip.
Give
us 1 second. Give us 1 second.
And again, be careful with the robot, okay? Here we go. You're all gonna want one for Christmas.
Action! Wow, that's pretty good.
That was great.
I'd like to thank everyone so much.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, thank you guys. That's a wrap.
May, what happened would change everything, everyone.
What are you talking about?
We have to find a way here to forgive them all.
They butchered our son. You're insane. You're insane. Murder us! Murder! Tell me to get the fuck out of my house!
Violence isn't a thing that you should feel comfortable with in a movie, and I think we make a point with the violence of it being uncomfortable and being violent and being as horrible as it is in real life, as opposed to like a movie convention that you're comfortable with.
You never loved me! You just loved how much I love you! I gave you everything. You gave it all away.
Action! 3, 2, 1, go! She says what? She says, go ahead, take it, right? Go ahead, take it. So
We want to
I'll
keep
say that
bodies.
to you. And then you stick the hands in, your head comes up, or yeah, exactly, in pain. So you just do it, and then just hold it there, don't get it all over you, and then we'll come clean you up. Okay? All right. Go ahead. Stay seated, you don't need to get up, and then spin out, the camera will follow you, you'll hold it, you'll start to squeeze it, then we'll do a Texas switch where we'll pull it out and stick the other crystal in your hand. Ready? And squeeze. Find the crystal, find it, open up. Dust it. Blow on it. Cool. And cut.
At the end, you know, if you do your job really well and people are entertained, then it's going to take a while to process what you just experienced because there's so much more beyond the entertainment value. And I think I'm looking forward to that too. Just having it out in the world and knowing it's going to be released and knowing that some people will see it, you know, the joy for me is going to hear their reaction.
I'm not sure what the experience is going to be for people. I'm really curious to see. I'm excited to share with people and see their reaction because it's very unexpected and different than what you normally get at the theater.
So, I mean, I think the film just goes further than you think it can possibly go quite a number of times. Even when you get to the very end, you're like, okay, that was insane. Then it goes, oh yeah?
I think it's exciting, you know? It's one thing to make something lukewarm, it's another thing to make something scalding hot. It's a Roman candle. It's an explosion. It's a riot of a movie. I'm excited to see just the span of reactions.
Again, it's a movie to experience, not to be explained, I think.
It's not a passive experience watching these movies. People don't shake the movie so easily. I mean, you know, sometimes that pushes pretty hard, but that's how you connect.
The worst thing I think you can do is make a movie where, you know, you're entertained, but then, you know, a couple of hours you're like, oh, what did we see tonight? And you don't really remember it. I think it's more you want to give people something to think about, and it'll be a lot of heated conversation, but that's kind of the fun. It's been a really long journey, an amazing journey. I'm incredibly thankful for all the passion that everyone showed to this movie. Thank you very much.
My name is Adrian Moreau, and I do makeup effects for movies, and I was the makeup effects designer on the movie Mother by Darren Aronofsky. Reading that script was one of the most claustrophobic experiences I've ever had. The thing that's great with Darren is that he has like a real understanding of everything that's involved with every craft on the movie, and he knows that we need time to build things properly. So we have that baby that's being passed around by a crowd of people. That clearly cannot be done with a real baby. So we ended up building those baby replicas that were little robots that were capable of amazing range of movements.
We're gonna do, we're not gonna be as rough on this next one. We're gonna bring in a robotic baby. This thing's pretty cool.
The flip.
We all gonna want one for Christmas.
Action!
Give us 1 second.
It needed to be shocking, but we wanted to make it different from all the exploding heads that we've seen in the past. And one of the things that Darren brought up early on is that he was talking about how images that he had seen from World War I, and so what about if we tried something like that, which it's not like the head exploding, but it's kind of, the guy gets shot in the side of the mouth like that. We decided to do something that we could actually reuse a bunch of times and do multiple takes with. And we kind of got it out of the head. We ended up like a system of magnets that could close it back together, and it was through air pressure that we'd have like the entire thing open up.
And it blasts open. You won't see any of this stuff that's actually
Right. Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah, there's like 3 tubes in there that can be propelling guts and blood on the outside, and that's what makes the jaw open. See, for brain matter, it's nothing that looks as good as banana because it doesn't really mix us. We might need some apple boxes.
You guys ready to position?
Yeah, it'll be okay. Yep, that's good. Let's walk in. All right. He gets hit that way, but then he kind of got whipped. So whip his head. Okay. Yeah, that way.
3, 2, 1, hit!
The first incarnation of the toilet monster was something that I had drawn, which I made it look like a little bit like an organ butterfly. It was really interesting looking, and it had a little bit of a flapping movement, a little bit like a butterfly. So the second version of the thing sort of looked like a pulsating sphincter, and it had like a bunch of tentacles or tendrils attached to it. That was also kind of interesting, and it was making it a lot smaller in the toilet bowl, and then we were able to pull it in a much smoother way through the drain of the toilet. Actually, even
I can see it. It's a baby boy. Yes. There it is.
That's good.
Okay, now go in with the stick. Yep, good.
And poke. And cutting.
What Darren needed for this was to sort of have a more graceful transition from our burned Jennifer as she vanishes away. He wanted to go from her being burnt and alive, her heart is being pulled out, as the heart is being crumbled into a thing, then there's this kind of wave of energy and she turns into this ash corpse. Originally what we did is that we did a live cast of a body double in the position of Jennifer, and then Shane at the shop sculpted a burnt look to her. Then we had to come up with a way of making it collapse on camera. We had like a piece of flap of skin that was sort of holding up everything on the inside of the head that would be pulled with a wire that would open up, and then with a series of bladders behind all those pieces of ashes and resin elements of the head, the bladders would inflate, making everything collapse all at once. That result was again, weeks of engineering.
Doing the second half of the scene with the ash body.
Oh, the whole thing?
And pull.
The differences between Mother and all of Darren's previous movies, this one is how meticulous he is and wanting things to a degree of precision that's unparalleled with any other directors. I'm really grateful to be considered within like Darren's circle of trusty accomplice. It's amazing.